From the moment they first appeared in 1960's Brave and the Bold issue 28, the Justice League have been the flagship superhero team of the DC universe. Originally comprised of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter, the JLA have largely existed as the all-star ensemble of the company's most iconic characters, as well as the epicenter for where all of DC's biggest stories are usually told. Whether it be the iconic comics, the beloved animated series, or live-action films, the Justice League are a major part of DC's universe. However, there was a time when this wasn't necessarily the case, and despite their storied history, the Justice League were something of an afterthought to DC editorial, leaving the team a far cry from the industry titans that they once were. Now, while this does sound very doom and gloom, this is actually a story of overcoming adversity, as it was the writers who took over Justice League at this time who used this situation to create a brand new and defining take on the superhero team, known as the Justice League International. And in this video, I want to explain how this unique version of the JLA first came to be, what the state of Justice League comics were by the mid-1980s, and how the creative team of Keith Giffen, DeMatteis and Kevin Maguire turned the team's fortunes around and created a unique version of the Justice League that would remain an iconic piece of DC history for decades. Before we continue though, just a quick reminder to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to Owen Likes Comics so you don't miss out on any future videos. The Justice League of America was the brainchild of writer-artist Gardner Fox, who decades earlier had created the Justice Society. The JSA were a staple of DC Comics throughout the 1940s. However, by the end of the decade, the team had all but faded away from existence, with the book they were most often featured in, All-Star Comics, being transitioned away from superheroes and into westerns by 1951. This wasn't an isolated incident though, as the post-war era saw a rapid decline in the popularity of superheroes, and as such, this caused DC to cancel many of their superhero titles, with virtually all the heroes besides Batman, Superman and Wonder Woman fading away into obscurity. By the late 1950s though, DC's fortunes had begun to change, and as such, in 1956, the company reintroduced The Flash, with Barry Allen debuting in Showcase issue 4 as the new iteration of the Speedster, with many other heroes following in his wake. With the success of all of these reintroductions, DC editor Julius Schwartz approached Gardner Fox in 1959, asking him to reintroduce the Justice Society. However, Schwartz wasn't content with simply rehashing an old concept. Instead, he asked him to modernise the team and create a new version that would resonate with a whole new generation of readers. This was demonstrated by the changing of the team's name, as they would instead be known as the Justice League. Schwartz explained the reason for the name change in his autobiography, stating that,
"When I took it upon myself to Silver Age the Golden Justice Society of America, I changed the name to the Justice League of America. I didn't like Justice Society because it sounded too much like a club name, like High Society or something. Society was such a quiet word, and the readers were more familiar with League from the National League and the American League."
With a new name decided, Gardner Fox got to work assembling the lineup for this new version of the team, deciding on a core 7 that would represent all corners of the DC universe, combining the unwavering star power of Superman, Batman and Wonder Woman with popular new characters such as Barry Allen's Flash and Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. The Justice League's debut in Brave and the Bold issue 28 proved to be a tremendous success, and as a result, the JLA received their own solo comics soon after. With the Justice League now established as a major pillar of the DC universe, Gardner Fox would leave the title in 1968, replaced by Denny O'Neil, whose tenure would see several notable changes to the Justice League's lineup, with both Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter leaving the team, whilst new heroes such as Black Canary, Zatanna and Red Tornado joined in their place. Although the Justice League remained an ever-present staple of DC Comics throughout the 1970s, by the end of the decade, many within within the company began to feel like a major refresh was necessary. As such, in 1984, Jerry Conway would actually form a brand new team in the pages of Justice League Annual Issue 2. This one now based in Detroit and consisting of Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Zatanna, Vixen and Elongated Man, as well as a trio of teenage heroes Gypsy, Vibe and Steel. However, this team wouldn't last very long, as the following year, DC would begin its most ambitious crossover yet, Marv Wolfman and George Perez's Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it's in the fallout of Crisis that we would begin to see not only an entirely new DC universe, but a brand new international version of the Justice League. Crisis on Infinite Earths was a story designed to create a brand new DC universe, ditching the long-established multiverse and in its place establishing one singular continuity. As a result, in the fallout of this story, almost every major DC character was rebooted, with notable examples being John Byrne's retelling of Superman in The Man of Steel, George Perez's relaunch of Wonder Woman, and Frank Miller's gritty new origin story for Batman in Year One. With all of these flagship characters being given new introductions and the company carefully building up its new post-crisis continuity, it's unsurprising that DC editorial were very protective on which books could feature these main characters. And while at first this seems reasonable, it actually proved to be a huge problem for Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, who were tasked with writing the new Justice League comic, as the pair were told the likes of Superman, Wonder Woman and The Flash were all unable to appear in the book. As the comics editor Andy Helfer recalls,
"I'd been thinking about the Justice League of America for months, ever since editor-in-chief Dick Giordano called me into his office to tell me that a new JLA was slated to emerge from DC's forthcoming Legends crossover. I left his office feeling I'd received the mandate I'd been looking for, to reunite DC's most powerful heroes in DC's flagship team book. The picture filled my mind: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, all together, all under one banner. It would be great. Except Superman was currently under renovation. Byrne, Wolfman, and Ordway politely told me to keep hands off. Wonder Woman was undergoing the same treatment, courtesy of George Perez. Ditto for Mike Baron in The Flash. So much for a return to greatness. Destiny knocked, and no one was home."
For Giffen especially, this was a massive challenge, as this was the biggest opportunity of his entire career as a writer, and with the plans to reassemble the original lineup now scuppered, he, DeMatteis and artist Kevin Maguire were forced to assemble an all-new team of heroes, with the only original JLA members featured in the book being Martian Manhunter and Batman, with the latter being added at the behest of Denny O'Neil. As such, these two would serve as the season leaders for this new team, with the remaining members consisting of Captain Marvel, Dr. Fate, Black Canary, Guy Gardner, Blue Beetle, Mr. Miracle, and Dr. Light. While it was certainly a unique lineup, especially compared to previous versions of the League, Giffen and DeMatteis were keen on proving that this series could still be a success. This new version of the Justice League was formed during the 6-issue miniseries Legends, a story which saw Darkseid send Glorious Godfrey to conquer Earth, only to be stopped by an assortment of heroes who decide to form a new Justice League to protect the Earth after the original team's disbandment. This new ensemble would soon be given their own self-titled series, where they would be christened the Justice League International, to not only distance themselves from the previous iteration of the team, but to demonstrate a clear focus on the writer's part to give the book a more global feel. Not only was this JLA distinct by its international focus, but tonally it proved to be a huge departure from anything that came before it, as one of the things that Justice League International is most well known for is its very light-hearted and comedic tone. At a time where comic books, especially at DC, were becoming increasingly dark, with stories such as Watchmen, The Killing Joke, and The Dark Knight Returns dominating the medium, this more humorous approach proved to actually be a breath of fresh air and help readers endear themselves to this ragtag ensemble of unlikely heroes. For Giffen, DeMatteis and Maguire, the intention was to use the comedic tone to not only distance themselves from many of the other DC stories, but also to show a very different side to the company's heroes that would feel more human and relatable. As Helfer explained,
"Heroes have an obligation to society and themselves to be heroes, and that means acting like a hero. There's a public persona every hero has which is seldom dropped. Heroes are role models. The citizenry looks up to them, supports them, believes in them. In the presence of the public, the mask hides both the hero's face as well as his true personality. But in the presence of his or her peers, it's a different story. The Justice League is a fraternity where heroes can take their masks off and let their hair down. They can be human for a change, and, in effect, be like us.
Giffen and DeMatteis would co-write International for a total of 60 issues, and throughout their run, redefine what the Justice League was to many fans. Not only did this series have a far more comedic tone than any of its predecessors, but it also focused heavily on the drama and interpersonal dynamics between each member of the League. This wasn't a team that always got along, and the writers showcased the often uneasy alliances between all of the different members of the League. My favourite example of this tension between teammates came in issue 5, where Guy Gardner questions Batman's leadership and challenges him to a fight, only for the Dark Knight to knock Gardner out with a single punch, with the Green Lantern remaining on the floor for the entire issue. The JLI also had an uneasy relationship with Maxwell Lord, a newly created character who essentially served as the team's public spokesperson and liaison to the United Nations, with the League becoming an officially sanctioned peacekeeping force by the end of issue 7. From here, the Justice League would face off against an interesting array of villains, including the Grey Man, Manga Khan, and the Champions of Agnor. The roster would also change throughout this time as well, with Martian Manhunter becoming the official leader, whilst new members such as Booster Gold, Captain Atom, and Rocket Red were all recruited. However, in 1989, the Justice League status quo would begin to change, as DC launched a spin-off title also written by Giffen and DeMatteis called Justice League Europe. With this, the JLI's title was reverted back to Justice League of America, and 2 years later, these two teams would cross over in what would be the writers' final storyline in their 5-year collaboration, the 16-issue saga Breakdowns. Now, Breakdowns served as the ultimate culmination of Giffen and DeMatteis' reimagining of the Justice League, with both of their teams being forced to their lowest point after Maxwell Lord is shot and left in a coma. With Lord incapacitated, the UN appoint a new liaison to the Justice League, who proceeds to fire multiple members of the groups and forces the remaining members to hunt down their former partners. This dire situation is compounded by the emergence of villains like Despero and Dreamslayer, and although the heroes do defeat the villains, the end of this series sees the UN actually revoke the Justice League's charter, with Martian Manhunter walking away and effectively disbanding the team altogether. This was a tragic end to what was largely an incredibly light-hearted series, and as a result, this cliffhanger left many fans wondering just what the future would hold for the Justice League. And although they would come to find out in the subsequent months and years, I think it's fair to say that from this point onwards, things would never be quite the same again. Following Giffen and DeMatteis' exit after the conclusion of Breakdowns, DC would relaunch the Justice League in 3 different comic book series: Justice League of America, Justice League Europe, and the newly created Justice League Task Force. While at first some fans may have been excited by the premise of these 3 uniquely different teams, it didn't take long for the shine to wear off for many, with the relaunch proving to be ultimately underwhelming, as by 1996 all of these titles had been cancelled due to low sales, and DC sought out another visionary creator who, much like Giffen and DeMatteis did a decade earlier, could reinvent the Justice League for a new generation. As a result, a brand new league was formed in Mark Waid and Fabian Niciez's miniseries A Midsummer's Nightmare, reuniting the original 7 members, though with new iterations of Flash and Green Lantern, with this being the lineup that would be spun off into Grant Morrison's JLA series. Morrison's run on Justice League is still regarded today as one of the best periods in the team's entire history, with the writer restoring the ensemble back to very much being the all-star collection of heroes heroes that they originally were back in the 1960s. And while the JLA have largely remained in this vein still today, I do think it's important to highlight just how impactful and significant Giffen, DeMatteis and Maguire's time on the series was, and how in a lot of ways Justice League International built the foundations for the entire future of the beloved team. It's no secret that when the writers were given the Justice League series, they faced unprecedented challenges to just keep the book afloat. Without access to many of the company's biggest characters, the writers were forced to rely on many lesser known heroes, hoping that readers would take a chance on them and be won over by the genius stories that the pair were telling. Thankfully they were, and Justice League International proved to be a huge success, but it's not unrealistic to imagine a world where it wasn't, and it was a genuine possibility that if this relaunch had failed, the Justice League could have ended up like the Justice Society before it, a forgotten relic of a bygone era of comics. To me, Justice League International laid the foundations for a whole new era of storytelling for the iconic team, allowing writers like Morrison, Joe Kelly and Jeff Johns to take the team back to the pinnacle of the DC universe. And while the JLA have today firmly been reinstated as the ultimate superhero team at DC, with many of the modern iterations treating the team as a modern pantheon of gods, there's something about this more grounded and human approach that I personally find so captivating and endearing. Giffen, DeMatteis and Maguire brought the everyman problems seen in comics like Spider-Man, X-Men and the Teen Titans and embedded it into the Justice League, peeling back the curtain of these larger-than-life heroes and giving readers a cast of characters that they could genuinely relate to. J.M. DeMatteis described this combination best, stating in his farewell letter at the end of Justice League issue 60 that
most people would say that the key to Justice League's success is its humor, that people read it for the goofy dialogue and the wild situations, and that's certainly a part of it, but the humor wouldn't work if we, readers and creators alike, didn't believe in these characters. I learned very quickly to believe. The Leaguers reminded me of the gang of friends I grew up with in Brooklyn, just being ourselves without the pressure of the world intruding. Justice League became my comic book Saturday night, a place I could drop the serious writer mask and just write for the sheer fun of it.
Honestly, the legacy of Justice League International can be felt in so many ways across the superhero landscape, with its chatty and self-aware tone not only informing future Justice League runs, but also the likes of Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers, in addition to cinematic endeavours like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a book that had such a notable impact on comic book storytelling, and given the strange and difficult circumstances that informed its creation, I think that makes its story one of the most uplifting in the entire history of comics. It was honestly a book that few expected to succeed, but through Giffen and DeMatteis' brilliant understanding of characters, comedy and humanity, combined with Kevin Maguire's incredible art, it became one of the most defining series of a generation. And much like how Against All Odds, its band of unlikely heroes became the world's elite superhero team, I genuinely believe that Justice League International is nothing short of an unlikely masterpiece. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on the video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you enjoyed this video and you want some more, there should be some others on screen right now that you might also enjoy. If you want to help support the channel and help me make more videos, you can do so over at patreon.com/OwenLikesComics. And if you want some more of me, you can follow me on Twitter just at OwenLikesComics. Again, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you next time. But until then, take care and keep reading.